Vaytsekhovskaya. Welcome to the skating lesson. My name is Dave Leese, and today I am thrilled to welcome a legendary journalist and the gold medalist in platform diving from the 1976 Olympics, Elena Vaytsekhovskaya. Elena, welcome to the skating lesson.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's nice to meet you. I have enjoyed reading your work for so many years, and I thought it would be interesting for the viewers to get to know more about you. I think that many people have read translations of your articles around the world and been so interested in your writing. And I don't think that many people even know that you're a platform diver. Your father was a legendary coach in the Soviet Union in swimming. So I want to bring you back and tell us, how did you even get involved in sport, in athletics? How did you get chosen for diving?
I'm not sure that I have some other possibility, some other way, because when both parents are coaches, you spend the whole day with them in the swimming pool, but I never liked swimming. For me, it's too annoying. You swim and swim and swim, many kilometers per day, and that was really terrible. And one day my mother told me to get out from training because I was too lazy or too noisy, I don't know what. And I started to cry. And one of the diving coaches, when she saw me crying, she told, "Oh, what are you doing here? Let's go with us. We have trampoline in the gym, and so it's exciting." So my diving career started.
Now, if both of your parents were swimmers, were they tall? Because divers are usually smaller than swimmers. So how?
Not too tall. I am the same size as my mother. My father wasn't very tall. He was doing modern pentathlon. He wasn't a clean swimmer. Okay. And at that time, it wasn't so important as it is now. As far as I remember, I always had a problem with the weight after 16. But that was normal for me when my father says you shouldn't eat after 6 or after 4, you shouldn't eat bread, you shouldn't eat sugar, you shouldn't eat salt because salt keeps water in the body. That was normal. That was life that I used to live for many years in my family.
Now, were your parents involved in watching you dive, or did they give you advice? Because obviously there are famous coaches. Did they have a kid? Never.
My father, one day he went to a diving pool because it was the same pool. He was in training camp with his swimmers, and I was in training camp with divers. We lived in the same hotel. We trained in the same pool, but in different pools, but in the same facility. And one day he decided to watch what's going on with me in my group. And unfortunately, that was a day I tried a very complicated dive, 1.5 somersault with 3 twists. At that time, just one male diver did it, and nobody even tried to do. And the landing was poor, it was flat, and it's terrible to watch from a side when somebody's doing this.
You smacked the water?
And when my father saw, can you imagine for the parents, your child is diving, he looks like normal child, and he's going out of the water totally blue. Because when you land like that onto the water, your body changes color immediately. It doesn't take time, a few minutes or 1 hour. It immediately turns to be blue, dark blue. And so the whole surface was dark blue, and my father told I will never want to see it again, and that it was. And the first time when he saw me diving, it was a video that I brought from International Hall of Fame. When I was inducted to Hall of Fame in 1992, the Hall of Fame administration gave me a video, and there was a part of my Olympic performance. And that was the first time when my father got the possibility to watch it.
Oh my goodness.
And he was watching and crying.
So your parents didn't see you watch, win the Olympic gold medal. They didn't watch that on television.
My mother did. She was in Montreal as a tourist, and she was in the swimming pool that day. But it wasn't important for me. Is there parents or there are no parents? I didn't have my coach in Montreal, and that was a bigger problem for me than to think, are my parents here or no?
Okay. Now, did you grow up living with your parents while you trained? Because some athletes live in dormitories away from home, but I guess since your father was at the Red Army Club too?
I wasn't a typical athlete. First of all, I started in English school.
Okay.
It was absolutely no typical for the high level athlete. So I had the first practice early in the morning before the school. Then I returned to school, and then after the end of lessons, I went for the second practice. Of course, I used to spend a lot of time in training camps, but usually it was home around. It wasn't easy. As I told you, I was not able to eat sweets or to drink something like lemonade or cola. It was absolutely forbidden. We had a very old refrigerator, very, very old, because the family wasn't very rich. And this refrigerator had a key. And every evening, my father closed the refrigerator, and he was keeping a key. And I knew that it's impossible for me to go and to take something from a refrigerator.
So, Elena Sergeyevna, how did you know that you were talented? Yes.
How?
Yeah. How did you know that you were talented? Were you more daring than the other divers in your group? Did you...
I never was talented. Frankly speaking, I'm not good for diving. I never was. I'm not too flexible. I have, I don't know if these words are correct in English, heavy bones.
Okay.
We used to say heavy bones. It means that two athletes can have the same height, but different weight.
Okay.
And at Soviet times, when you come to training camp, first you have to measure your weight. And if your weight was 3 kilos more than head coach say you have to have, they send you home immediately.
Okay.
And so the problem of the weight was terrible for all the girls, especially for me. I never was able to reach this level that was calculated for me. It was 52 kilos, and I usually competed at 54.5.
Okay.
And I trained 56. At 53, I was not able to move. And 52, it was something fantastic. Not for me, definitely.
So what made you the winner? Because you told me...
You asked about talent. You know, one day I made an interview with Irina Rodnina many, many years ago. And Irina told me a very interesting thing. She said, you know, I was like you in the national Soviet team, and every year we had very many tests, different tests, showing how talented you are, how high you can jump, how big is your lungs, and she never showed good results at those tests. But she told me, I had another talent. I had a talent to compete. I liked competition. I felt myself like a fish in the water, and that was not a problem for me to concentrate and so on and so on. And I think I was like the same. One day my father told, I heard he was talking to a journalist, and this journalist asked him, what can you say about your daughter as about a diver? And my father told, her best quality is to concentrate when everything is against her. And when I became a journalist, I met many, many different athletes who did the same. Probably they were not too much talented, but they knew how to concentrate, they knew how to reach the goal. And by the way, the last person who told me that he wasn't talent, he had no special talent for his sports, was Ole Einar Bjørndalen, the biggest biathlonist of all times. I made a huge interview with him in last February, and he told me I wasn't talented. I didn't have any special talent for my sport. It's all hard work.
No, you told me when we were corresponding that you had more difficult dives than your competitors in the world in 1976. Now, do you think that you were more daring, or did you work harder? I guess, how did you, develop such a difficult program?
I think it's character, because till now, it's not good. But till now, I know if somebody will say, oh, it's impossible, I start to prove that it is possible. I was told, it's impossible to make interview with this person. I did it. And my editor did it many times. He told me, I would like to have such an interview, but it's impossible. And I thought, what? And the same was in sport. When I heard that something is impossible, I tried to do my best to prove that people around me are not right. I can do it. I will do it. And I think because of that, I never thought at any problem from this point of view, from the point of view that it is impossible. And even now, when I want to do something difficult, I don't waste time to think if it is possible or not. I start to plan what I have to do to get the goal.
Yeah. Now tell me about the Olympics, because you told me that you were third ranked on the Soviet team going into Montreal, and you wound up winning. You were in 6th place after the preliminary competition, and you won. So I guess at what moment did you know, or did you determine that you were going to win, go in there, that, with the absolute vision of winning? What was your goal for the Olympics?
It was funny. I was in Canada 1 year before Olympics. It was a number of competition, Canamex, Canada, Mexico, and US. And in Canada was the last one. And that was the first time when I put all my complicated dives together and did it without any mistake. And the total result was huge. And the most famous coach of that time, Carlo Di Biasi, he was coaching his own son, and his son was, I'm afraid to mistake, but I think he was 3 times Olympic gold medalist, Klaus Di Biasi. And Carlo, his father, he told me, congratulations, you won gold medal, and I have to say you one important thing. Next year you will become an Olympic champion. And I thought, Carlo, it's impossible. That was my, not first, but one of the first international competition. And I told Carlo, it's impossible. Where am I and where gold Olympic medal? And he repeated, you will become an Olympic champion. If it will not happen, you can tell me that I understand nothing in diving. And Carlo Di Biasi was a very special person for me. We were friends, and I admired him as a person. I admired Klaus as a diver, and Klaus was 2-time Olympic champion at that time, and so it was like... and when I came to Montreal, my coach stayed in Moscow because her visa documents were not ready. I was sure that something must happen very important, that I must show good result because I have to show everybody that my coach is the best coach in the world. So the responsibility, the level of responsibility was very high. And I don't remember, but my mother told me an interesting story. One day before the final, she met me near the Olympic Village and started to complain that my father is not allowed her to drive the car. And I told her, Mom, it's not a problem. Father told that he will buy me a car after I will win gold medal. So we shall have 2 cars after the Olympics. And my mother told that, I don't remember it, but she told that it sounds so confident, and it was so scary for her as a coach to hear such confidence when the final is not here, it's just tomorrow. But it was funny. In general, it was funny. And I really was in a good shape. I felt confidence, and as I told, the difficulty of my program was so high. It was much more higher than for the other divers. And when I did the most scary dive, it was 6th dive, I went to the first place, and I was absolutely sure that there is no way for me to lose. Because one of the most important thing that my coach learned me, that the last dive must be absolutely confident. You must did it well anytime in the night, during the illness, but it must be absolutely confident. That's why my Olympics finished for me after the 6th dive. Mm-hmm. I was sure. How
great was the feeling of satisfaction for you?
Nothing. It's I didn't meet any athlete for 30 years of my work as a journalist who was really happy after winning gold medal, because you have nothing inside of you, no emotions, no power, no physical strength, nothing. Like you left it all in the swimming pool or at the stadium on the ice, etc. And the first feeling that I want to close my eyes and get rid out of everybody. Don't touch me. Don't speak to me. And that's it. And it's still the same. I asked many times athletes who won the Olympics. I asked what we were first feeling, and the answer was the same: nothing, just emptiness inside.
Well, after...
and you understand it several months later, and that was also an interesting moment. After my victory, I met in the Olympic Village. I met a very famous fencing, an athlete from fencing. He became an Olympic champion. He won his second Olympic Games at that moment. He was much more older than me, and he asked me, "Hi, little thing, do you feel yourself an Olympic champion?" Yes, of course. And he told me, "You tell me a lie. You will feel it 6 or 7 months later." And he was absolutely right. And it's not like yesterday you didn't feel anything and today you're great. It's not like that. You start to feel a responsibility. You start to feel that at every competition people want to beat you. You start to feel that people recognize you. So you are not, you cannot go out when you look something without hairdress or I don't know what, that anytime somebody can stop you and, "Oh, I know you." It's like you have to control your life more strictly, more attentively. I don't know.
So after those Olympics, were you preparing to go and win again? Obviously, the 1980 Olympics were to be held in Moscow. So did you, was that your plan to continue competing?
Yes, it was not difficult to keep the shape because I started to learn all these crazy dives when I was 16, and I had an adult body, and it was not. So I was sure that my body will not change. But 2 years later, I got an injury, very stupid injury. I didn't want to dive, but my coach insisted that I have to dive. And I went to the platform, not concentrated. I was sure, okay, I will do this dive and that's it. And I have 2 days off. And I didn't take my hands in the right way during the entrance and broke, I don't know the English word, I broke my shoulder here. It was absolutely, totally broken. And it was not possible at that time to make a surgery because it means that they cut you here and there and no arthroscopy, and so you had 1 hour, 1 year to recover, and then 1 year to make it again flexible, and I tried to continue diving, but it's very hard. You cannot think about the dive itself. You think only about your shoulder, about that it will hurt you during the entrance, and that was really terrible. And I was not able to make a team in 1980. I took 5th place at the nationals, and so of course it was a hard situation for me. I can't say it was easy, but now I understand that I had no chance to make a team.
Had you already been studying journalism? At what point did you transition from diving to becoming a journalist?
Oh, it wasn't by education. I'm a coach.
Okay.
I'm not a journalist by education.
So you went to coaching the school of sport?
My parents, my father, he wanted to see me a coach. And I was sure that I don't want to live such a life because it was enough years to watch my parents' life. And one day he asked me, why you say that you are not going to be a coach? You never tried. And I told him, okay, I will go tomorrow to the swimming pool and I will start my coaching career. I spent 6 months as a coach. I was coaching small children. And after 6 months, I came home and told Dad, I tried. I tried to do my best. And now I can tell you absolutely sure that I will never be a coach. I will never try it anymore. I don't have enough patience, and it's not interesting for me. And the question was closed. Then I didn't work for several years. I got my 3 children. That's why I don't remember absolutely the Olympics of 1988. I was busy with my children. And one day I came to the one of the biggest sports newspapers, Sovietsky Sport, and I met a friend of mine. She was working there for several years. And she told, oh, let's make an interview with you. You will tell me. And I spent 5 years not in Moscow, in Murmansk. It's a very northern part of Soviet Union, was at that time, now Russia. And the life was very strange there. And we made this interview. I told her how difficult it is to stay in Murmansk with this 6 months nights, 6 months day, with 3 little children, and so on and so on. It was a big interview. And when I saw this interview in the newspaper, I realized that she didn't change anything. She just put my words as I was speaking, and I thought, if I can speak like this, why not to try to write like this? That was the first point when I thought that I can write. And next time, probably 6 months later, the editor of Sovietsky Sport, he met me in newspaper and asked, oh, can you write us what professional sport is? And I told him, what do you want? I want a big article about professional sport, about what does it mean to be a professional athlete, to compete at Olympic level, and so on and so on. And I told him, but I have no idea how to do it. And he told me, that is absolutely easy. You take a piece of paper, there was no notebooks at that time, nothing. You take a piece of paper and write, Lieber or Dear Tom, or Dear Vladimir. And then you write everything that you want to say. When you finish, you scratch out the first line, Dear Vladimir, and you have an article. And sounds stupid, I know. But I tried, that was a big article. And so I used to write from time to time some articles about diving, small articles about diving. big articles about people. And when my children went to the not nursery school, how you call the school before the school?
Yeah,
before
nursery school. That's
nursery
what I, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I find that I have plenty of time at home. And probably the same day or next day, I went to the newspaper again and I told them, please, can you find any job for me? If you will tell me that I have to learn journalistics, I will go to the university and I will start learning. And one of my elder colleagues told me, you know, this newspaper is the place where best journalists of the whole country used to work. And we can teach you. And nobody will teach you as good as we can do here. And that's why it's not necessary to go to the university. And they started to teach me. That was really a great job from their side because everybody helped me. I don't know why. But I'm a very lucky person in this. I was a very lucky person in this situation because I never had a big problem. I knew that I can ask if I don't know how to do something. I can ask for help, or I can go with any of them to the interview to watch how they talk to people, how they behave themselves, and so on and so on. That was interesting.
Well, you're obviously from the Soviet Union, which is a different freedom of the press and a different culture in certain ways than in the U.S. But I wanted to ask you, because you grew up at the Red Army Club, and when we corresponded, I was asking you about Yelena Mokena, who was one of the gymnasts who could have won the 1980 Olympic Games and was paralyzed. And when the press arrived at the 1980 Olympic Games, they... I guess the coaches didn't want it to be known that she had been so severely injured. And I wanted to ask you how you found out at the time that she was injured. You told me that you visited her. And I guess the situation about that, you know, how the press actually found out that she was indeed injured.
Oh, well, difficult question. Mm-hmm. Because at that time, when the whole country was preparing for the Olympics, people were convinced that nothing negative should be in newspapers. I even not sure that the information about her injury was in newspaper. We knew it before the Olympics when it happened. It was training camp in Minsk. And it seems to me that divers had the same had its training camp at the same place in Minsk. And when it happened to Elena, we discussed it. It was, I wouldn't say it was normal, but you know, it was very hard to find for the place in the national team that times, because it was not only Russia, it was 15 different republics with their own schools, many people pretending to be in the national team, and especially before home Olympics. You know, it was a kind of special Olympics with no Americans there, no strong athletes from another countries, and that's why many people were convinced that the main goal is to join the team. If you join the team, you will get your medal, because the level is not the level of Olympics is not too high. Not in every sport, but in many sports it was like that. And for, I don't remember, for 8 or 9 places in national gymnastic team, it was more than 50 athletes. Mm-hmm. So every coach tried to lobby his interests, to push his athlete ahead, And the story with Mokena was very simple. Her coach went to Moscow to meet some big boss and to try to convince him that Mokena, as a representative of the capital of Soviet Union, should be in the team. Not because she's the strongest, or because she has an outstanding program or something else, but because she is Moscowite. Mm-hmm. And it must be a representative from Moscow in the national team or something like that. And Elena was trying a very complicated element without a coach. And the landing was poor. She missed herself in the air, and then, because everybody were frightened that information will go, it happened before the Olympics, how it can be, and so on and so on. They left Yelena in hospital instead of send her to Moscow and to make an immediate surgery. When an athlete got spinal injury, it's very important to make a surgery as soon as it can be done. And she spent several days in Minsk. Then she got a surgery, but it was too late. So it was, for one hand, it was bad luck. For the other hand, it was the blame of the system.
Now, as part of the system, your father was the head swimming coach, and the results dipped at the beginning of the 1980s, and he was fired. So I was wondering if you could explain what happened, and how did that impact, his life? Was he able to work after that? What happened?
He became a director of sports university, but it wasn't interesting for him. Sometimes it's very difficult to find an interesting job after the sport, because you have a lot of adrenaline, a lot of impressions, a lot of interesting things in your life, and when you stop it, it seems that your life became absolutely empty. And my father, I'm not sure that he was ready to accept this decision. At that time, he was 52.
Young,
And I know exactly that his life stopped at that moment. He lost interest to anything he was doing. Yes, he was a director. He worked as the professor in the university. He wrote several books about swimming. He wrote several dictionaries, sports dictionaries, English, German, Russian, German, Russian, and so on. But it was like a way to make himself busy. And I think he never, after 1982, he never was happy. That was difficult to watch.
Yeah. And you have that perspective, as you, in your writing, I would understand from your knowledge of watching the athletes you grew up with, watching your parents coach, that adds an extra layer to your understanding. Because one thing I've noticed about your writing is that you're able to understand the sport of figure skating, the political side, the athletic side, and the technical side better than the other writers. We have writers that cover it in the U.S., but they don't have a real understanding of the sport, of the different, how puberty affects the body, the athletic side of training. How did you learn the sport of figure skating?
I never have a goal to learn figure skating as a sport. My experience says that to learn rules and elements and records is the easiest thing in journalistics, especially now when you can get all the information in internet. And for me, it was also interesting the psychological side of the sports. My father, one of my first interviews with my father, because my editor told me, if you can do it, you're a journalist. Because it's very difficult to talk to the friends, and especially to the relatives. And when I asked my father if he is still dreaming about something, he told me, I would like to write a book about sports. I would like to find an answer why we are doing this, why we continue doing this, trying to become first, in spite of all injuries, in spite of all difficulties. Why? What pushes us forward, and so on and so on. And he didn't write this book because he felt ill, and he never even tried to do it. And I often think that my job, what I'm doing now, is a kind of the same. I'm trying to find answers. As you told, I understand many things about sport because I have my own experience because I have an experience of my parents. This crazy headphones. Are you sure that it's better?
It is, yeah.
Okay. I know sport quite well, but I never look at sport from the position I knew everything. I don't. And I met a lot of situations when I knew something absolutely different. Because, for example, when Tara Lipinski won the Olympics, I was absolutely sure that I understand the situation quite well. She is a small girl. She has nothing to lose. It's absolutely easy, and so on, and so on, and so on. And many years later, I met Tara Lipinski at the Olympics in Sochi. And I came to her and I told her, Tara, I wrote a lot of articles about you, about your Olympics, about how easy it was, and that you had nothing to lose. And so it makes difference between child skating and adult skating. And Sarah told me, well, and do you think how terrible it is when you are 14 to stay in the middle of the ice and to have this feeling that you have no idea what to do, and everybody is staring at you, and everybody used to say that you must, you have to, and you don't know what to do, and you don't know what to be then. And I don't exactly remember what she was saying, but that was the point when I thought, probably for the first time, that children's sports is a very complicated thing. Because I'm sure you know a lot of examples when adult people decided to divorce, children very often they feel themselves guilty. Children from 5 to 10 probably year old, they start to think, I am not good enough. And that's why my parents decided to divorce. And I think in sport it's very similar. When you show the result, when you are 13 or 14, and at 16 you stop to show this result, what you're thinking about? I am bad. I can't be as good as my coach wants to see me. And for the children minds, it's very serious. I spent a lot of time trying to understand, for example, why my coach was not lucky when I became an Olympic champion. She wasn't. I tried to do my best. I won this gold medal. I came back to Moscow absolutely happy that I proved, I felt responsibility and I proved that I can do this. Here is my gold medal. And she wasn't happy. And many, many years later, I understood she had another athlete at this game. And she did, and this diver, he was elder than me, 10 years elder than me. He didn't make the final. But all her life was in him, not in me. I was like, I don't know, girl that is always around. And she was so much upset with his result that she has no strength, no emotions to be happy with my medal. Probably, I don't know. I never talked to her about it. But my feeling is that, it's very complicated for both sides. And that's why, beginning from the first day of my journalist career, I'm still finding the answers. By the way, all human life, we are trying to find an answers of our questions, of the questions we had in childhood, at school, at the university, in the family. You are trying to find answers. So the same do I in sport. The situations are different, people are different, but there are still so many answers, so many questions without answers.
Well, you were talking about the 1998 Olympics, and I'm curious, listening to you speak, what is your take on someone like Michelle Kwan, who was such a beloved skater? People felt that she was perhaps one of the best ever. And she won so many nationals, so many Grand Prix, so many world championships, but she couldn't do it at the Olympics. What is your perspective on that? Is it too much pressure? She performed well, but not with that same, I guess, vigor.
My father told me once that this is not the psychological point. This is physiology. Some people are not able to survive this pressure. They are absolutely good at the level of world championships, but they are not able to compete at the Olympics when they are in the Olympic final. Maybe not. But I saw a lot of situations when people were unbeatable at world championships. Michelle Kwan, Kurt Brown, Elvis Stoik. If you follow or probably followed skating, speed skating, Dan Jensen. I was so happy when he won his last gold medal. It was the last distance in Lillehammer, last gold medal. And he got this gold medal in his very last competition. And at the same time, there was Igor Zhelezovsky from Soviet Union, who won 6 world championships in a row, but never been an Olympic champion. So it happens in all the sports. And I think it's really connected with individual characters of a certain person. It's a big problem for the coach to prepare his student to the Olympic Games. For example, when I talked to a famous swimming coach, Gennady Turetsky, he was coaching Alexander Popov, our greatest sprinter. Then he was coaching a lot of Australian sprinters. And once he told me that his duty is to learn his student to be, how to say it, to feel, not only to feel responsibility, but to be able to make decisions when there is not coach around him. And he told me that for one hand is dangerous, because when you learn your student to be independent from coach, that is the wrong word, but I don't remember the English word for that.
Self-motivated.
Yes. When you know that your student can make your own decisions, it's a big risk, because your student can leave you. Probably he will feel that he can do something by himself.
And Michelle left Frank.
Probably. But for the other hand, when an athlete is alone on the ice, in the swimming pool or somewhere else, he had to make the decisions by his own, because no coach can help him in that moment. And if he used to make decisions, so that's good. That means that he is able to keep his behavior under the control. If not, panic, nervous, and whatever else. So, and many people make no difference between the level of national team and between the level of the Olympic final. It seems to them that it's the same ice, the same coach, the same goals, and the situation is the same in general, but not. When you are at the Olympic Games, everything is different. The feeling, it's like you come to the stadium and you feel it in the air. You feel how in Russia you can cut the air with the knife. It's like that on the Olympics. And if you are not used to that, if you are not able to understand what to do in this situation, better not to skate, not to compete, not to swim. I don't know. It's very different from all other competition.
Were you shocked? Were you shocked when an athlete like Michelle Kwan would choose to go to the Olympics without a coach for a whole season, for 6 months? You know, when she split from her.
We all do a lot of mistakes. Mm-hmm. I split with my coach in 1978. She told me, "I'm too tired. I don't want to work in national team anymore. So if you want to continue, look for the other coach." And I started to look for the other coach. And many years later, I understand that was the biggest mistake, because we had this conversation the next day after the World Championships, where I was not successful because of my injury, and it was terrible in general, and she was nervous because I was an Olympic champion, and everybody wanted to see the result, and there was no result and no chance to show this result. Probably the better decision was to go for the vacation, and 1 or 2 months later to return to this conversation. And probably we could still work together. But happened what happened.
Now, to switch gears, one of the things you really understand so well are the politics involved in figure skating. There's an article that you read about how Grishuk and Platov won gold in 1994 that is, I think, the most interesting, nuanced understanding of ice dance. How did you come to understand the politics involved in figure skating and in ice dancing? Was diving this political?
Yes, I can tell you an interesting story. 1974, it was the year when I was like a newcomer in figure skating. I wrote about figure skating from time to time, but 1974 it was
1994 or
1994, yes, 1994. I had this conversation with one of our famous dancing coaches. And I told her, can you explain me the couple of this coach, one of the coaches, are they really so great as people say? Because from my point of view, the second couple is better. And can you tell me your opinion? And she told me, it doesn't matter who is better, who is not better. This coach has 5 judges. She has 10 couples from different countries, and she always have 5 judges at any competition. And you remember what did it mean to have 5 judges?
You control the panel.
Yes, it's and she told me it's not important at all how they skate. The only thing is important is 5 judges. And from that point, I started to watch.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because
to ask question, because our world is narrow, and one of the closest friends of my father, they worked together 10 years in the national team. His wife was international figure skating judge, and every weekend they were at our place or we were at their place in Moscow. So our parents, not parents, our families were friends. And of course I had possibility to talk to her about everything. Even when I became a journalist, I just tried not to ask questions during the competition, because I know that it's forbidden. It's not allowed. But between the competition, or in the evenings, or by phone, we could discuss everything. And she explained me a lot of things about judging. At that time, it was one of the most interesting points for me in figure skating, because I knew how it is organized in diving, but in diving is more complicated, because in diving we scratch the highest and lowest point, like now in figure skating, but at that time figure skating was different.
It's interesting because the ice dance discipline that you talk about in that article, one of the teams that lost was Usaba and Zulin. And studying that article and what Natalia Linachuk was able to do in 1995 with the different teams that she had at the European and the World Championships, it seems that the top 2 ice dance coaches in the world follow this model to the T. You have Marie-France Dubré from Montreal, and she has a pair from Japan, a pair from Spain, a pair from every country, and then you have Alexander Julin, and you can know which judges are going to vote for which teams depending on the competition, and you can tell now with which judges are drawn for the World Championships how well their teams will place. I think, obviously not the friend. I think that Papadakis and Cizeron are so probably far ahead of the other schools, but beneath that, it seems just as political as ever.
I'm not sure that I understand the question, the main idea of question. but I don't think that now is. I think the situation with judging in general is better now. I used to hear a lot of conversation about judging, that it's terrible. That's I don't think so. I think it's not objective, of course, and it never will be, because human beings are sitting and judging. And I have a feeling that I answered another question.
It's okay. It is okay. I wanted to ask your take on what is happening with the Russian ladies in figure skating. There's been a lot of controversy about Eteri Tudbaridze, about whether it is positive, whether the conditions are too harsh. And as an athlete, you know, what is your perspective on that? Do you think that it's healthy for the athletes? You know, what do you think?
You know, it's a very complicated question, because it's people, and you as well at the moment. You're trying to put together many things. Sports of high performances is not healthy at all. Let's start with this point. As I told already, I think that when we are speaking about children, it's very, very complicated subject. Children in sports, who must take the responsibility for what they are doing. Because, for example, I knew an athlete. She was at the age of 13. She won European championships, and at the age of 16, she killed herself. Why? Who knows? I know many cases when coaches started to push the athlete to make very complicated elements, but those athletes didn't win anything. I know how difficult it is to make what these young girls are doing now. But I'm absolutely sure that it's easier than to do the same at 17. That's why I don't have an attitude towards this problem where I can say he is good and he is bad. I can't. It's not white and black. It's really very complicated. This is the one side of the problem. The other side, that all we can see now, all that Tudbaridze students are doing, is a huge amount of work. And first of all, it is a huge amount of coaches' work. I don't have, if the coaches have any other interests in their life, I think no. Because it's impossible. I can see quite clear that they have a goal to make their skaters best skaters of the world, not only at the Olympics, but everywhere. Probably 6 skaters in Grand Prix final, all podium at World Championships, and so on and so on. I don't want to appreciate it from this point of view, is it good or bad? But we had not similar situation, but probably it was similar in many aspects in diving, when Chinese divers came to the international level. I remember quite well when it happened, and I feel a kind of proud that I never lose to Chinese. I never competed to them, and I'm like I have a luck in this, I think. But China, on the that was like a national idea to win everything in diving, and they did it. They did many things that people used to call cruel. For example, if you are not good enough to show your best result at the competition, you will never be in the national team again. If you do a big mistake, you will never be in the national team. There are many people who want to be in the national team. There are many schools. There is a very good selection. So they select those who can win. And nobody cares who will, what will happen to these athletes after they will stop, after they will retire. But again, it's not a question of good and bad. It's a question of what are going to pay for the result. If you are ready to pay high price, it's your own business, and I'm not the person who will appreciate it. That's wrong. That's totally wrong, because it's not my life. For my life, I know I am not ready. I never was. Probably that was one of the reasons why I'm not coaching, but writing. But you know, the biggest problem for me at the moment is, probably I'm not right, but I have the feelings that not so many people interested to understand the situation. Not many people want to understand the situation. It's like, I don't know how to say, but you know, when people are fighting to be the best in the world, or the most famous, there are too many people around them. Usually those people don't have very interesting lives. And they get this piece of interesting lives in the other lives, in the lives of stars, like glory hunters. You know, glory hunting is a big problem if you will try to understand what's really going on. You live a life of the other person. And this is a problem of fans everywhere. When you have your favorite athlete, when you follow this athlete, you make him small gifts, or you used to watch all the competition. You used to write him cards, to bring flowers. The moment came when you start to think that this athlete is a part of your life, and this athlete must behave himself like you think about it. That was exactly what happened to Medvedev. People, again, that's my own opinion, but I really tried to understand what was going on. And my explanation is, people were admiring Medvedeva for 2 or more than 2 years. She was like an idol. And all of a sudden, she changed coach. And people start to think, why she did it? We don't want. We think she must stay in this group. We think that it was wrong to come to Canada. It was wrong to many, many, many things that from the other point of view were wrong. Who you are to judge what was wrong and what wasn't wrong. It's her life. If he did a mistakes, she will pay for her mistakes. But why you try to explain to her that she's not right? My opinion is like that. And the same to many other skaters. Yulia Lipnitskaya was before. And I'm absolutely sure that they are not lost in this line.
Do you think with Medvedeva, do you think that it would have been as big of a problem if she had switched to Buyanova or another coach in Russia? How much of the situation was heightened because she went to a coach outside of Russia to a Canadian because she's not being coached by a Russian?
I don't know. First of all, I don't think that Buyanova was the best choice. Yes, Buyanova is a coach of Olympic champion. But I'm not sure that she can do the same work with another athletes. When we are speaking about Tutberidze, we can see the system. This system doesn't matter. You think it's good or you think it's bad. It's a system that gives the result. I don't see such a system in Russia, in any other place. We have many strong coaches, but I can't say that any of them is so motivated as a Terry. And I'm not sure that they were able, for example, Buyanova was able to give Medvedeva what Orser can give her. Probably Medvedeva needed exactly this to change situation totally, to change country, to change training methods, to change language, to change everything, and to start from the very beginning. I don't know. I know that it was very difficult for her to continue after Olympics.
So I have a question for you, because you talked earlier about heavy bones, about your body. Biomechanically, the way that Tutberidze's students jump uses a lot of arms. It uses a lot of twisting, right? And that is using more upper body than leg strength. Alexei Mishin teaches jumps that use the legs more to get height on the jumps. Terry's students rely more on rotation. At a certain point, I think something that fans don't really understand is that Medvedeva and to a certain point Zagitova will not be able to compete with the athletes who are younger because they are taller, they have more developed bodies. I mean, do you think that Medvedeva could even survive had she stayed with Tutberidze? Would she be injured and done? From biomechanical point of view, when the body is narrow, it can rotate very fast. And when it started to be bigger, this speed is not so high. This is a main reason for the junior sport, why technically complicated sports is much more easier for the children. Diving is the same. The only difference is that in figure skating you rotate like that, and in diving you rotate like that. When the body is tiny, you can rotate very fast. When the body is getting bigger, you lose speed. What does it mean when you lose this speed? You need more time in the air to perform jump or to perform dive. In diving, it's easier because you have water.
And if the entry is not good enough, nothing terrible happens. No, I don't mean big mistakes when you land like that. But in gymnastics, in acrobatics, in figure skating, when you have a floor, it means that you land and the rotation is continuing. So your body is rotating, but your legs stop very. And at that moment, the pressure that you have on your low back and your knees is very high. This is a point where you can very easily get an injury. And for my opinion, this is the most dangerous point when you work with the small girls and when they don't have enough power to complete the jump before landing. But the other way is to prepare body, is to prepare muscles, to make them ready for what I am going to do. Quadruple or probably triple lutz or some other dives, some difficult jumps in gymnastics and so on and so on. If you take modern gymnastics and, for example, Simone Biles.
Her body is uniquely...
She's not slim.
Yeah.
She's not slim at all. She's too big for gymnastics. But she's so strong that she is able to do with her body whatever she wants. And, but you know, again, I speak now from the point of view, this point is interesting for me. For me, it's interesting what's going on with figure skating, what will go on with figure skating, what will go on with female figure skating. It's exactly a point of interest, not a point of appreciating bad or not bad. And this is the point that people don't want to understand. Because if I say it's dangerous, I'm absolutely sure that a lot of people will start to cry. Whoa, she blamed a coach that she kills the children and so on and so on. But I have no idea about this. It's not my business, the point I'm thinking about. You know, figure skating was for many years my profession, but it's not my life. I even don't have figure skaters among my friends. I mean, among friends that used to visit my house, that I spent holidays together, and so on and so on. There was just one case when I had figure skating couple in my house. It was my birthday, and nothing good, because I'm joking, of course, but they bring me skates, and I broke my arm learning mohawks. Yeah, that was first broken arm in my career.
I'm impressed because I don't know how many journalists who cover figure skating would know what a mohawk is.
You know, I was so much tired from to listen that I can't write about figure skating because I am not a skater.
I've heard, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think you heard a lot of such meanings that I decided to try. And when I got my first skates, because, earlier I wasn't allowed to skate. Because all divers have to take care of the legs, and so we were not allowed to alpine skis, figure skating, and a lot of other activities. I tried, and I know all the steps. I can do not all the steps, but many of them. I skated for 2 years, and I really wanted to understand. And I can say that I understood a lot of things about figure skating after I started to skate myself. But I can't say that it's more difficult than to be at 10 meters and have to do 4.5 somersaults and to get out of the water alive. So every sport has its own specific difficulties. But as I told at the beginning of our conversation, it's not the most difficult thing.
So I have a question for you, because as someone that covers sports, I find Terry Tuberidze to be fascinating, because you talked about her motivation to win. You think about how much energy a person and concentration they can have to want to produce an athlete, and she keeps overseeing more and more, and now it's not juniors, it's the television show on the Ice Age, and her desire to be successful is growing, I think, every month, every week. And I wonder if you have any perspective or knowledge on where that comes from. I know that she was not a very successful ice dancer compared to perhaps the other teams that she would have trained with, I guess. And she once said that she was upset that she had to move from singles to ice dancing because she, wanted to be a successful single skater. So I guess, where do you think her motivation comes from as a coach?
I think her motivation, first of all, of course, her motivation comes from her own career. Mm-hmm. She wasn't successful, as you told. She never had a chance to be successful because she was too tall. But for my opinion, her main motivation came after Sochi Olympics, when Yulia Lipnitskaya lost individual skating. Mm-hmm. I know for sure that they were preparing for the gold medal. I talked to Eteri twice before Olympics. I am not sure that I am right, but I think I was the first journalist who made a big interview with her in 2012. And I remember quite well, it was in Quebec. I came to her and I asked, Terry, can I make an interview? And she told, oh no, who am I to give an interview? And I told her, you're a coach, probably a coach of the next Olympic champion. And then I talked a couple of times with Yulia. I had a big conversation with Yulia's mother after Yulia won the Europeans in Budapest 1 month before the Olympics. And I am absolutely sure that the only result they wanted to have in Sochi was the Olympic gold medal, the individual gold medal. And it turns to a tragic way. Because, I have no arguments, but I felt they were so sure that they will do it. So it was a huge blow when it didn't happen. And I think the real motivation took place from that point.
Do you think it's added motivation that Buyanova won because they have a rivalry between the two of them, and it was not only another athlete, it wasn't as if Kim Yuna won the gold, it was another athlete who was from Russia, from the same city, and from a rival coach to upend. It's a scar in a way, it's an extra.
I would say it in a different way. Every time when somebody becomes the Olympic champion and you start to analyze how it happened, you find a lot of things that came together in the right moment. Sometimes it seems that it's impossible to explain. I mean, Olympic Games of '94, everybody was sure that Nancy Kerrigan will do gold medal. And I was sure too. And Oksana Bayul cuts, Tanya Shevchenko cut her leg and she goes to hospital. And people started to say, oh, poor thing, how she will skate and so on and so on. But as an athlete, I can say that was the biggest luck of Oksana. Because when it happened, she stopped to think about competition. She started to think about her leg. And this is very important because the most difficult thing at the Olympics is not to think about the Olympics. When you start to think, especially when you are a favorite, nothing good. Mm-hmm. And even there is a good example in diving. Probably you remember in 1988, Greg Louganis came to his third Olympics in order to add 2 more gold medals to his collection. He was not young. He was not so confident as he was 4 years ago and earlier. There was too many strong Chinese divers, and I wasn't sure that he will be able to win. And then, in preliminaries, he pushed his head on the springboard, and they start to stitch his head and so on and so on. And I'm so sure because I talked to Greg in 2005. We met at high diving and we were discussing, and he told that was the biggest luck in my life, because when it happened, I forgot about competition. I started I was thinking about his illness, his head, blood in the water, and he started to dive as he used to dive during the training, automatically. And automatically, he won springboard, and day after, he won 10 meters. I'm not sure that he was able to show so high result in normal situations, because everything was very much against him. And he was nervous and he was not confident, and he changed coach before that, and returning to your question, I think the Olympic champion is not only the level of your preparation, is also the question of many, many, many small things that must come together. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that it's an explanation, but I think this way.
It's interesting because watching in the 2008 for the gymnastics, you had Shawn Johnson, who the U.S. media was sure was going to win, and you had Nastya Liukin, who had a father with very famous as an athlete and then becoming a famous coach. And the media in the U.S. was behind Shawn Johnson, that she was going to win. And it seemed to only motivate the Liukin family. Do you think that that was interesting? Also, there was the culture that, Russia did not have a top lady. And in some respects, it seemed like a gold medal for Nastya was a gold medal for Russia. You know, like it.
I'm not sure that it's a question of judgment or a question of something else.
No, I'm not saying that the judges, you know what, it just was a different, you know, situation than just
the
usual.
Judges wanted to see Nastya.
Not necessarily. Although there was one situation where she did get a extra 10th on balance beam and if you watch the video, she did not need this 10th. But
no, speaking, I don't understand.
Okay.
I don't remember quite well this final. I was so glad for Nastya because we spent so much time at the same training camps with gymnasts, with Valery when he was an athlete, and I was so lucky that she got this gold medal.
I was too.
It's strange, maybe not strange, but for me, when I see children of people from my sport life, it's like your own children. It's no difference. You feel the same. It's like your own child is doing this and that and that and that, and it's very difficult.
Now, as you look forward to the World Championships and the upcoming Grand Prix final, Tuburica has 4 of the 6 ladies in the final. Do you think that absolute success for them will mean the first 3 places on the podium? Is that what the goal is, do you think?
Probably I'm too old to think that that sport can be predictable. We all remember the first post-Olympic World Championship for Alina Zagitova, when she missed almost all her jumps without any explanation, nobody expected such a turn. In this situation, I prefer not to make prognosis, but just to watch. It's very interesting for me. The situation that is now in single ladies skating is the most interesting, for my opinion, among everything that's going on in figure skating. And I'm not sure that I'm alone in this meaning, because if you take any internet site and look at the titles, it looks like all figure skating is a terrace girls. But it's not so. We have very interesting situation in dancing with the other couples going closer and closer to Papadakis. We have very interesting situation for us, for Russian journalists, in pair skating with Tamara Moskvina, young couple. And frankly speaking, I was absolutely not sure that Tamara, at her age, is able to coach and to... I don't know how to express it, to be focused on coaching so much as she is doing. Because I know how difficult it is when you are at serious age. It's impossible to compare when she was 10 or 20 years younger. And we have a very interesting situation in male skating between Nathan Chen and Yudlu Rokhaniu. But nevertheless, we have 90% of the titles about the terrace girls. So that means that there is nothing more interesting for the whole world. And I'm not the exception. I want to watch it. I don't want to discuss what will be. I don't know what will be. I have my own favorites in this group, and I have my own favorites out of this group. And I got a lot of pleasure watching, especially now.
Now, you mentioned Tamara Moskvina. So you wrote books with Tamara Moskvina, if I understand correctly, about figure skating. And you said that you were surprised, about how much. But one thing is, even among all coaches, is that Tamara Moskvina, Frank Carroll, they have a certain intellect and a certain love for the sport, I would say, that keeps them going. Frank is still, he was up working with Alyssa Liu last week, before the Nationals. They had him working with her while her coach was at a competition. Do you think Tamara is one of the smartest coaches you've ever met among the various sports?
She is definitely one of the smartest. I know quite well her husband, and I knew him since he was an active coach, and he was the smartest person among all Russian coaches I ever met. He knew figure skating. There was nothing in figure skating that he couldn't explain. I would say there was nothing in skates that he couldn't explain or he couldn't understand. And this book, at the beginning, it was a book about Tamara's husband. She asked me to help because she told me that Igor prepared so many coaches. All pair skating coaches is his students in Russia, beginning from Belousova, Protopopov, and she told me, I don't want all her knowledge went. I want to keep this knowledge. I want to keep his experience. I want to keep his life, different situation in his life. That's why I ask you to help me to write a book about this. And then later we decided to make a book not only about him, but about her as well. And that was very interesting experience for me. Because, it's absolutely funny. I told that I have 2 weeks, and during these 2 weeks I can go to St. Petersburg to talk to Igor about his life and so on and so on. And she met me on the railway station when I arrived. And we were driving in her car, and she told, by the way, you can imagine that small woman driving a car, looking
crazy
forward.
Driver, right?
Yeah, very concentrated at the process. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, Igor has no idea about our book. And I asked her, what? And she told, I can't tell him because Igor, he's so modest. He don't want to speak about himself, and he will not speak about himself, I am sure. And I asked her, Tamara, and how you imagine how I can do it? Elena, you have so big experience as a journalist. You have to solve this problem somehow, said Tamara. And that was a big adventure, but I did it.
Well, I wanted to ask your take about Tarasova, another infamous figure in the sport of figure skating, genius by many. Her father, also like you, a very famous coach. She's now, I guess, more of an overseer to the Russians. Do you think that she should be more? Do you wish that she were more involved in coaching, perhaps ice dance?
I'm not sure she can.
Okay.
I don't know if it is the difference can and able. I'm not sure she's still able. Because to be successful as a coach now, you have to have your own team. You have to have a lot of ice. you have to have a lot of different people around and to put it together and to be every day on the ring to manage all people. It's a huge work. And first of all, Tarasova has no place in Moscow where she can coach. She used to speak about it a lot, that she has no eyes, that she would like to have eyes, but I'm not sure she wants. I'm not sure that she has enough motivation to start it from the very beginning. I remember a 1-hour conversation. It was in Torino, and as you probably remember, 1 month before the games, she split with Shizuka Arakawa, and Shizuka started to skate with Nikolai Morozov. And actually, it was Tarasova's gold medal because she was preparing Shizuka for these games. She was making program in order to make them the best ones, and I asked her why. I asked Tatiana why you decided to split with Shizuka 1 month before the Olympics, and she told me, I lost patience, and coach cannot be successful when he don't have enough patience. I don't know. Probably it wasn't the truth. Probably she said it upon the emotions. I don't know. But she told me. And after that, she didn't have much success with her students. I don't know why. Every profession, every occupation has its beginning and the end. Probably, I don't know. It doesn't make you less famous or less successful or less great. But it's over.
Well, speaking of your profession, as we wrap things up, what is your current goals? Well, are you currently writing? There's reports that you aren't writing for the newspaper anymore. But you told me that you're working on a book. So can you tell us anything about that?
A book appeared later. The idea of a book appeared later. Actually, it's a long story. If it will be correct to say so, I'm a spoiled journalist. In 1991, I started Sport Express, the new sports newspaper, Sport Express. I started it together with a small group of other journalists, but that was my newspaper. And I stayed there 26 years in a row, writing about everything. And all these years I had possibility to do whatever I want. If I want to go to a certain competition, that was not a question. I just told my editor I want to go there. And by the way, I was the only one Russian journalist who was visiting during 6 years Dick Button's World Championships. Because one day I told, it seems to me that it's interesting. And I started to go there. I covered a lot of Olympics. I covered 86 or 87 World Championships in figure skating. And about probably 200 World Championships in different other sports. And but 2 years ago, I started to think that I have no interest in my profession because because the situation started to change. I realized it when my editor called me, told me to come immediately to the office because there is an urgent, something urgent in figure skating. And I asked, what urgent in figure skating can be? We have July, and there is no figure skating in July. And he told, no, you must be here within half an hour, and so on and so on. When I came, he told me, you must write an article immediately about the divorce of Anisina and Jigurda. Marina Anisina and her husband from show business. And I looked at him, what? I turned and went, but that was the first point when I started to think that the world around me is changing, and I'm probably too old to understand what's going on. And I was really very close to retire. I told myself, okay, I had 26 brilliant years. I think I'm the only one journalist in the world who had the possibility to do whatever he wants and have a lot of pleasure from work. And all of a sudden, I got an offer from Airsport. This is a news agency to start work for them. My first question was, what for? Because I am not an agency journalist. I never work as an agency journalist, and I have no imagination how to work, how to write only news. And he told me, no. I want you to do whatever you did all these years, because we need columnists, we need experts, we need I would like you to explain people what's going on in different sports, and so it means to do what you used to do. And I agreed. For these 2 years, I got a lot of very different experience. For example, I was working at soccer world championships that I never did before, and I wasn't sure that I am able to do it, but I did. I did several interviews again that was impossible to do. I was told that we would like have, but it's impossible. I did them. But I don't know how to say, but especially after the Olympics in Pyeongchang, and I think you will agree. Just a moment, I will break adapter because my computer will die immediately. If I will not.
Я понимаю.
Спасибо. Спасибо. Сейчас все будет нормально. After the after Pyeongchang Olympics, I realized that people are not anymore interested in any explanation. They would like to have their own point of view. And if you write that, for example, Medvedev made a good choice moving to Canada, next day you can read that I told that everything was bad with Medvedev here in Russia. That's why she moved to Canada. People started to interpret articles, not only mine, as they want. And the strange thing that people are not interested in figure skating at all. They are just interested in battle between themselves. Alina fans, Evgenia fans, new girls fans, and so on and so on. And probably it's interesting for them, but it's not interesting for me. But you know, that created a problem. Better to say I was ready that it will create a problem. Because when you work for the state agency, you have to control everything you write. Mm-hmm. You cannot write something. I don't know how to explain.
Opinionated, pointed.
So every your opinion must have arguments. And I think that many many sites, many media, they don't like the situation of this fans group, of this hating, of these scandals around. Many people, many media are caring only about clicks. That's why you have to give attractive title, and it doesn't important what you write about. It's not new. It's appeared not today. I remember quite well, very funny story. It was in 1995 or something like that when Alexei Urmanov was skating. And Mishin went with him to the competition, and when we were in the plane on our way back, I find a newspaper in the plane, and it was written, the coach Mishin changes his sex. I have to explain. In Russian, the word sex, and I mean sex, male, female, mm-hmm. and the word floor sounds the same, pol. And the article was about the new apartment of Mishin, that he made a renovation in his apartment, but then he went to the competition and water came from upper floor, and the floor went like this, and now he has to change floor. But in the title, the coach Mishin change pole, it sounds like coach Mishin change his sex. So that's an illustration that the story is not new. But it's not interesting for me. And you know why I told that I am a spoiled journalist? During my journalist life, I never did something that gives me no interest. Mm-hmm. I never did something that I don't want to do. And when I was told that, please, it's not only for me, it was told for the number of journalists, that please, no personal opinions, please, no comments, please, no opinions in your interviews. If a person whom you talk with gives some opinion, this opinion shouldn't be in the interview, and so on and so on. And that was told me one day before Skate America, before I was going to Skate America. And the person who told me that, he told, probably the best way is not to write about figure skating at all. And he asked, is it possible for you not to write about figure skating? And I told him, listen, tomorrow I'm flying to Las Vegas, and I have an appointment with Nathan Chen. he promised to give me an interview. How you can imagine? I'm coming to Skate America. I saw Nathan Chen, and we have good relations. And I say, "Hi, Nathan. I don't need an interview with you." So, when I came to USA, I thought a lot about this. For one hand, it's not bad to stay in such a media. There is many other sports. There's a great possibility to travel and so on and so on. But I asked myself, am I ready to not to write what I want to write? Am I ready to talk to people in the other way that I used to do? And I understood that I am not ready. And before you call me today, I opened WhatsApp, my conversation with my editor, and I wrote him, "Here is interview with Nathan Chen. You can publish it. You can not publish it, but I had a lot of time to think about this situation, and my answer is no. I am not ready to do what the other people think I must do. I am not going even to discuss it." And that was a point when I made a decision. And better to say, that was a point when I realized that I have to stop my working for this media. Because, I'm not, till now, I'm not sure that it was right decision. Because there were enough ways to solve the situation. But this is part of my character. I was always straight. Is not good. Is not always good. But I am, as I told you, I am a lucky person. I never worked in order to earn money. I mean journalistics. I did this work just only because I was very much interested in it. I love people. I love to speak to them. I love sport. I love to use something new from people, and it's a great possibility. And the most important thing, that I used to be happy in my life. And this decision made me much more happy. Because now I realize it absolutely. Because, I don't tell a lie. It wasn't easy. And first several days I was thinking about how stupid am I? How stupid I am. But then I started to learn language. I got a telephone call about this book with the offer to write a book about figure skating. I understood that I still can travel. I still can visit the competition. And I got several offers about the work. And I can tell you absolutely openly, I'm not ready to accept them. Because I would like to watch what will go, how the situation in journalistics will go on. Because watch again. Wait. It's funny, but I don't hear it at night.
Oh.
I don't hear I can tell you that I still want to work. I'm still interested, but I want to explain people what sport is. I think sport is a very huge part of our life, and sport is especially interesting that it's the only a single part of human life when you can become officially the best in the world. I mean Olympics. And the life at this level is absolutely different. And I like to tell about it. I like to tell about those people who are fighting there. They are not normal. Like me, I'm not normal, I know it. But those people are very interesting. At the moment, I can't say if it will be another Olympics in my life or another media. I don't know. You know, I'm in a good age. It's not necessary for me to find a work, and this feeling to be lucky is not depends upon my work. I can find interest in everything. You know, my most popular book is a cooking book, between the other 7. It was sold out within 1 month. I like cooking. I like everything what I'm doing.
Someone told me something, actually, one of your, someone that translates all of your articles was saying that a coach stayed with you and said that if she ate your cooking all the time, that she would not be able to, that she would quickly fall out of shape, because you are such a good cook. So that is what...
I'm really a good cook.
Do you know that there are message boards where they translate all of your articles? There is a woman, Tara, on FSU. She writes all of a lot of your big articles. She will work and spend hours translating. That's how I first got acquainted with your work.
You know, I can tell you every time when I put articles on my site, I do it myself, I think about English versions. I know they exist. I never follow them. I never look for them in internet, but I know they exist. They exist. And every time I think, oh, I have to gather all of them and to put on my site, it will be good for me. It will be good to increase my English if I will read good translations. So I'm too lazy to do it. When I started with my site, I started to put translations, but it takes a lot of time. And, you know, I'm a busy person with all my children, and now I was sure that when children will grow up, it will take less time, but now they live in different cities, all 3. They have their own families. I have granddaughter, and I can't go to one of them. I have to go to all 3. It's not easy sometimes. Yeah, and I started to write my recipes for my children, because when they at the age of 16, 18, they started to call me and ask, Mama, how we can do this, how we can do that. And I started to post recipes on my site, very easy written, very easy, with very easy explanation, with no possibility to make mistake. And I think that is the best thing in my recipes.
Well, I'm gonna have to try to make something. So a good Russian dish I would like to make maybe for the holidays. So I will look on your website and try to find something. Maybe you could pick something for me to try to make. I'm not very good. So
What do you prefer? Cookies, meat, fish?
I think maybe
vegetable?
meat. You know, maybe like a goulash or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, I will translate and send you.
All right, I will try this. Yeah.
I still have one English recipe, a Russian recipe that I translated into English for Stefan Lambier.
Okay.
When he told that he loves Russian borscht, I sent him the whole description with pictures.
I will. All right, that would sound great.
I'm not sure he tried.
Well, I will try. I would love it. So thank you so much for giving us so much of your time today. This was so interesting. Thank you so much, Yelena.
Thank you. And good luck.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.